Hello board gamers and welcome back to Not Board Gaming. I'm your host, I'm Mark. Now today's episode is going to be a review and we're going to be reviewing Under Falling Skies. That's right, Under Falling Skies, a game that is due to be launched any day now by Czech Games Edition. It's a solo only game, and I will say right off the bat that this is a review copy provided to me by CGE, but of course, as usual with my review copies, it won't change my thoughts on how I feel about the game at all. You see, we've always been obsessed since the time of pulp novels with things coming from other planets and kind of having to fight them off. We think that they are going to be these malevolent entities that are going to come and try and take over the Earth, and we have to kind of fight them off in one way or another, right from the pulp novels and then into the kind of the B sci-fi movies of the 50s and beyond. And of course, as we moved into the kind of video game era, the first major video game that caught on was of course Space Invaders, and Under Falling Skies is almost an kind of a representation of that kind of feeling and fun that you get in Space Invaders. You see, what you're going to do in Under Falling Skies as a solo player, and again, it's a solo only game, is you're going to be battling off the alien spaceships as they try to invade Earth. And it is very, very similar, almost in its genesis, to Space Invaders. These ships are going to get gradually lower and lower. You're going to build up your resources and you're going to try and battle them off. Sounds complex, but it's not. And I'm not going to bury the lead here because I think that Under Falling Skies by CGE is pretty much a work of genius. Come on, Mark, I can hear you say. You're barely 2 minutes into the review and you've already called it a work of genius. Do we need to watch any more of this? And, well, actually, possibly not, because at the price point that this is at, which is just about 20 quid, you know, even if you don't listen to the rest of the review, just go out there and buy the game. You're not going to be disappointed. However, I am kind of running slightly ahead of myself. So what we'll do is we'll take a dive, show you a little bit about what you get in the box. I can't show you everything because there's a campaign in there that I want you to discover for yourself, but we can certainly look at the base game. And minor hint on the campaign. I'll show you how it plays and I'll give you my thoughts on it. And I think, as you can tell from this review from the get-go, I really like this game. So the first thing you're going to notice is I've got two boxes here. Don't worry, you won't get two boxes. But for the people reviewing the game, CGE did a really clever thing. Is they sent out an actual copy of the game, which is there, and then a demo copy as well. And the reason that the demo copy is there is so that we can show you what's inside the box without spoiling the campaign elements of it. So, as you can see, from the actual copy of the game, I've got the board set up here, and you can see all the components you need to play the base game. And trust me, the base game you could just play ad infinitum and it would still be worth £20 of your money. You can see another couple of components over here. We don't use them in the first part of the base game and they'll come out as you play a little bit more. But let's just have a look inside this box and show you exactly what you get inside and the demo copy, so it won't spoil any of the campaign stuff that you get. So again, I just want to reiterate that for the price that you're paying for this game, which is about 20 quid, £21, the amount of content that you get in here, even if it was just the base game, would be fantastic. The box itself is, you know, it's a slightly big box. And you're going to see the first thing you get are some dice there and also this little excavation marker. I'll explain what he does as we go along. The blue dice you won't use initially, but they will take part in the game at some point. Then we have the various little spaceships. So let me show you these things here. The purple and white ones are the ones that you're going to be battling against at the beginning of the game. You can see they're quite nice little kind of sculptures there, almost, I don't know, insectoid in there looking as they're coming down from the mothership to get you. And there's purple ones, there's white ones, and there's also an orange one in there. And then we have some little glass marker beads, which you can see on the board over here. That's my research, my power, and my hit points. Now, you can see we've also got, let's get rid of that catalogue. In here is the rule book, and the rule book is some kind of 15 pages long. But in reality, unless you're playing a campaign, everything that you've got is going to be in the first kind of 11 pages. Now, you can absolutely play kind of your first game up to this point and still not experience the full game, and you could continue to play that because there's a fair challenge in there. But then, once you've played it a couple of times like this, you will then just add another couple of rules in, the blue dice for robots, flipping tiles over to increase the score, and then you will have the full experience there. But it is a challenge. And then you move into the campaign mode, which tells you a little bit about it there. Okay, as you can see on the back of this, it says, wait. Yes, wait, do not do anything, blah, blah, blah. Yes, there we go. And here we go. Oh, there we go. These are the rules I'm looking for. This is a demo copy. That's it. We have a campaign sheet here. So this is just if you're going through the campaign, that's how you record your campaign, but you may not want to go into the campaign for a long time. Now, everything that you see set up there comes in these starter tiles here, and these are just punchboard tiles. They give you your boards and the various cities you're going to fight against, and also the research base at the bottom along with the mothership. And then here we have the campaigns. So within the box, there are a number of campaign scenarios. So we have the first one, which we'll not talk about just yet, which is there. And then they all look like this. And as you can see, what CG have cleverly done here, just to give you an illustration of what's in there, is they've bound them all together and blurred everything out. So as I say, this is a demo copy. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 campaign scenarios. You can string those together into a full campaign. You can then introduce elements of that into your main game itself. It's absolutely fantastic. So just going back to the amount of content that you get 4 campaign scenarios. You get everything you need to just play the base game. You get the campaign tokens. You get the markers and the spaceship. You get the rule book as well. And all that goes inside that one tiny little box, or that one box. As you can see, I think that's fantastic value for money for just about 20 quid. So that's a lot inside a box that costs barely £20. But what is Under Falling Skies? Well, what it is it's a dice rolling game at heart, and you've got the board where everything's set up. And the aim of the game over a number of rounds is to roll your dice and defend Earth, and whichever city you choose, from the invading forces of the aliens that are coming down. And gradually the timer kind of is against you as the mothership starts to come down and the alien ships start to attack the base there. And that's it. You roll the dice, you place the dice, and you kind of manage the threat. It takes place over 3 distinct rounds. So the first round is the dice phase, where you roll the dice and you're going to place them one at a time on the board, and that's going to activate the enemy ships coming down. Then there's a room phase, so wherever you place a dice, you then get to activate the kind of the special abilities of those rooms. And then the final phase is the mothership phase, where the mothership is going to drop down one more level and get closer to kind of invading the base there. And that way, that may just trigger some other effects, some other not so good effects for you. And that's it, and you'll continue that until you complete the game. Sounds simple. Let me show you how it plays. So looking at the board, you're always going to set it up with the lighter portions of the board. If we just forget these bits for the moment, you're always going to set up the kind of skyboard with the lighter portions at the bottom and then the darker portions at the top. Down here, you're going to start your game with effectively 3 cities that you can choose, and they are double-sided. And Roswell is possibly the easiest one, and there's no special abilities on there, but if you lost, then you then play another game against it. You can then try to defeat the bad guys again, but it gives you a special ability on the other side, which says, when Roswell takes its first point of damage, advance 1 space on the research track, and I'll talk about the research track in a bit. There's also 2 other cities that come in the base version of the game, or the basic version of the game, which is Washington, DC and New York, and again, they've got their own special abilities, and then if you lose there, you can play another game and flip them over, and that gives you a bit of an advantage. And as I say, in the campaign, you also get access to other cities, which will give you various abilities. So yeah, you're going to place this board here, or these boards, with the lightest at the bottom, darkest at the top, nice and easy. And if they're all on this side, and you can see the research track, but if this is what you see, then that's the easiest mode possible. What you can do is you can increase the level. This is level 0 easy. If you flip one over, and you can see there that it's got some kind of some blood on there, that's got slightly harder. And you can then flip all of those over. So as you flip one over, it becomes level 1 difficulty, flip 2 over, level 2 difficulty, etc. until you get to level 4. And you can mix and match which of those you want to flip over as well. So maybe you want to try a level 2 difficulty with those 2 flipped over, or with these 2 flipped over, and that's a great amount of kind of variability that's in there. It's going to make the game play slightly different for you each and every time. So the aim of the game, basically, is to try and get your research to the top of the research track. Now, this research track is the green here, and you're going to start off on this particular, where there's a little thing there, and you have to get to the top of the research track before the mothership either makes its way down to where you see the skull, just there, or so many of these ships have got down the board and taken your health down to 0. And that's it. There are many ways, well, there's 2 ways in which you can lose it, which is the mothership hitting that skull, or you losing all your power. And the only way you can win it is by advancing up the research track. And let's talk about how the game plays and what you get to do in the game. So down at the bottom of your board, before we talk about that, is your research base. And you're going to start with these available actions where you can place your dice. And when you roll each go, you're going to place your dice in one of the columns. And that's going to have an effect further up the board as well as at the back end of your go as well. And when you start the game, on this particular board, your excavator starts there. That means that you can't use any of these actions here. There are ways that you can move the excavator forward, and as you move the excavator forward, it will open further actions for you there. This row here, when you place a dice there, takes 1 off the face of the dice. This allows you to attack, that allows you to advance your research, and that allows you to get some power, because power is the currency that you will use throughout the game to access more of these particular abilities and give yourself a better chance of defeating the bad guys. So that's kind of the base. You start with your power on the power, your health, and your research on the predefined areas, as you can see. And the aim of the game, as I say, is to get this research all the way to the top, whilst not losing all your power or allowing the mothership to hit this particular skull symbol. Nice and easy, if only. So as I mentioned, the game takes place over a number of rounds, and each round consists of a number of phases. The first phase that you got is the dice phase, and you're going to roll the dice phase, and you're going to roll your 5 die. You can see there are 2 white and 2 grey ones here. So let's just roll this and see what we get out. Okay. So I've got a grey 6, a grey 4, and a grey 1, a grey 5, and a white 5 and a white 4. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to choose these columns here to place my dice on, and they're going to have various effects. Now, wherever I place the die, no matter what pip is on there, so if I place that in one of these columns in the middle column here, so if I place that in this particular column, just for the sake, and let's place it there, say, just next to the middle column. Those pips denote how many spaces down the board the ships at the top are going to move. So that is going to move 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you place a die, the first thing you do is move your ship down. Had I moved that die onto there, that ship would have moved down onto that particular one, which puts it on an explosion. If I also had the ability to fight, I would be able to then destroy that ship a little bit later in the game. So there we go, we've moved that one down 4. Now, that's the grey die place. If you place a white die somewhere, so let's have a look. Let's place the white die there, and that's giving me a face value of 5 on there. I'm going to move the ship down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can see there's a little arrow just there where I've put the ship. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That arrow means at the end of his move, he's going to move over to the next column. But because I placed a white die, what I do is I re-roll my dice. So every time you place a white die, you re-roll the dice as well. So that's 2 goes done. We moved that down 4, that down 5, moved across 1, but he's now in that column. So if I was to place this kind of, this grey 4 in that column there, this gives me -1 on the pip value. That means I'm going to move all these down 3. 1, 2, 3 to there, 1, 2, 3 to there. Okay, I still have 2 dice left. If I was to place my white die, I would then re-roll for the grey one. So let's try that. What can we do? Let's move that in there, and that's going to move this particular one down 1 to there, and then re-roll that grey one because I placed a white die, and that's got a 6. So I'm going to put that in there. We'll move all these down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we know he's just behind there. 6, and that's it. That's the first dice phase done. I've placed the dice and I've moved the ships accordingly, and you can see how they're starting to move back. Now we're going to move on to the room phase. So this is where you get to resolve the rooms that you've placed the die on, or the dice on, should I say. And this is where the kind of the strategy and the tactics start to come in. First of all, there's nothing to do here because I placed that grey die on there. That moved it down 3 by a -1 there. So let's have a look. We start with 2 power. What I potentially want to do is gain more power. Now, To get the power here, I've got to fulfill the requirements or put a dice in both of those rooms, which I have done, and that gives me a total of 7. So that would potentially give me 7 extra power. However, I don't know if you can see on there, but there's a -3. So that will actually only give me 4 power. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's still not too bad. As we move to these actions here, you can see they've got a power cost on them though. So the first thing I want to do is potentially blast something out of the sky. So it's going to cost me 2 power to blast. 1, 2. So that takes me back to there. And that was a 4. And as you can see, 4 pips. And as you can see, there's a -1 on there. That means that any of these bad guys that have landed up here on one of these explosions that's got a 3 or less, I can take off the map. Let's have a look. This guy's on a 6. That doesn't work. That guy's on a 2. So what we'll do is take the red ship that was on the 2 and move him back up to the mothership. If we look over here, that one's on a 1. Oops. There we go. So that goes back up to the mothership, and that's on a 2. That means I've blasted 3 of them back to the mothership. Couldn't do that one because he was on a 6. Couldn't do that one because it wasn't on anything at all. But that cost me a power to do that, not 2 power. Okay, so that's that. You can see how you can start managing the threat a little bit more there. Down to the board here, the final one is this here, and this is this research. So that's going to cost me 2. 1, 2. To take there, and I get to move the equivalent of 5 on the research track. And as I say, the only way you can win the game is to get to the top of the research track. So I got 5 on this particular dice. That means you accumulate these here. So therefore I've got 3, 4, and I have to stop there. I've moved 2 spaces up on the research track. I can't move any more because there's a number 3 and number 1 there. I had 5 research, so that gives me 4. I can't move up there. I'd need 3 to there. So any research you don't spend at the end of that go is lost, basically. But you can see that's starting to move up. But there are ways that that will possibly come back down. And of course, my power, if we look down there, is now back at, it's down at 3. So it doesn't give me much hope for the next go unless I start kind of accumulating more power. That's 2 of the 3 phases done. The final phase is the mothership phase. So what's going to happen is the mothership is going to move down 1 step at a time. Now the first thing that happens when the mothership comes down is you have a look at the column, the icon that's in that column. The first icon gives you a whited out ship. So the first time the mothership moves down, we're going to take one of these white spaceships. Remember the red ones? There, and we're going to add a white one to there. So that's the first thing that happened. But of course, the mothership has now moved down and is getting 1 step closer to this skull token just here. If it hits there and you haven't got your research, you've lost the game. The next thing we're going to do in the mothership phase is we're going to prepare our ships for the next round. So the purple ones always go back first, and what you're going to aim for is a column that doesn't have any spaceships in, if at all possible. So that one has no spaceships in, because we blast it out there. That one has no spaceships in, and that one. That still leaves this white one, which you're going to put on last, basically the white one. And what you'll do is you will then look at the column where the spaceship is the furthest away. You can see here that this one is closest down to the bottom, furthest away from the mothership. So that's going to go there. And already we're starting to stack up for the next round. Now, every time you destroy a purple ship, it goes back into the mothership to come back out on the next round. When you destroy a white one, they go off the board, and that's it. They only come back on when they get brought back on. And as you can see, as the round progresses, that there will knock my excavator back 2 spaces. That one will give me yet another white ship. There's a green one just here. So if the mothership is coming down here, then that green one is going to knock my research back a space. And the mothership is this constantly moving kind of timer that's trying to get down to the bottom to stop you achieving your goal of hitting the research target up at the top. There's only a couple of other things that I want to mention about the base game. The other one is, first one is the excavator. And so you start off on the excavator space. That means there's only these actions or these rooms available for you. You get the option to place 1 die and 1 die only at a space in front of the excavator up to the value of the pips on there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That means I can then place that die there. That means at the room phase, I will spend an energy. I will move the excavator to there, get that. And the next round, I've opened up more room. So that gives you a bit of a boon as well there. The final thing, you won't play in your first couple of games, but when you move out of the base game into a full game, you're going to get access to these robot dice. And there's certain rooms, I don't know if there's any on here yet, there we go. there are certain rooms on here, and these rooms, when you activate them, you get a robot. And that means that you can then permanently put them on a room, and every time you activate that room, you get the value of that robot die as long as it's an accessible room, and then you reduce it down by 1. So they become really, really useful a little bit later in the game. That is the simplicity of Under Falling Skies. You have your dice phase, you have your room phase, and you have your mothership phase. And that's it. And that's what I'm saying. The game takes about 2 minutes to teach to somebody, and they will have literally a world of fun opened up to them. And every round, remember, that mothership is getting closer and closer to the bottom, or the ships are breaking through your barriers. You're frantically upgrading, be it research, be it the amount of firepower that you've got, be it the amount of energy that you've got, or robots you're putting on there. So you're powering up throughout the game, and you're moving your research up that track, but all the time the mothership and the bad guys are going down there, and they're trying to destroy you. And it creates, for this 15 or 20 minute game, which is just fraught, where you're trying to make decisions and you're trying to think in the best possible way and maximize everything on that board to make sure that you win your research. And there are so many times, and I played it loads of times now and only won it a few times. It is a difficult game to beat, but not overly difficult, because there are a number of times when I've lost a game and I'm literally on the last space of the research track, and if I'd had one more turn, I would have won it. And that gives it such a brilliant and close, kind of a well-crafted feel. So on top of the base game as well, you also get the campaigns that I mentioned within the box also. So I think there are 4 campaign scenarios in the box also. And what you're going to get there is access to various tokens and things that will change the physical aspect of the game. It'll break and bend some rules of the game for you, add additional rules in there, make it harder or slightly easier depending on the tiles that you choose and the certain aspects of the campaign that you choose. So there are characters that do certain things, there are cities that have certain abilities, there are tokens or other ships that you're going to put onto the board which will have a negative or a positive impact on the game. And as you're progressing through the campaign, it gets progressively kind of more challenging, but you're building up to it very, very nicely. My advice is do not even attempt the campaign until you can successfully go out there and kind of win a number of level 1 victories. And even if you do, then you may want to ramp them up to level 2, 3 or 4, because you have the ability to change things in there. Even once you've played the campaign, you can then use aspects of that campaign in the base game and alter the base game to so many different types of ways. So in this very kind of compact box for £21 or £21, you're suddenly getting myriad different ways of how you can play the game. So come on, Mark, you can't think it is all being to everybody. There must be something in this game that you don't think is quite right. It is my job and my remit as a reviewer to have a look objectively at these things. And I think the issue with a game like Under Falling Skies, for the value of what you get here, it doesn't pretend to be a massive big box experience. It is exactly what it says on the tin. For everything that you get in there, for the princely sum of £21, it's very difficult to be objective. If the board quality wasn't quite good, I could understand that if it was thin. It's not. It's nice, thick card on the board. Look at that. It is lovely, thick card. The artwork is perfunctory, but that's fine. I think any more would have been potentially distracting from the game itself. It throws a campaign in there. I must try and find something within here that doesn't potentially kind of gel and make this the perfect package. And of course, no game is the perfect package. And I think, there are a couple of really, really minor issues. And one of them is the rule book. It's very easy to learn. Don't get me wrong, and I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. But it just leaves you hanging on a couple of bits, which if you read it in a certain way and interpret it a certain way, it's going to leave you you'll understand. But it's not the end of the world. For example, the mothership moves down each and every turn and activates these icons here. But there's also actions on the board which will allow the mothership to move down. Now, in the rulebook, it's not quite explicit in saying if it's activated from a board action, the mothership moving down, it doesn't trigger these actions here. But again, I am scraping the bottom of the barrel here for something that is, for the price point, just a really, really fantastic package. You know, the campaign itself doesn't offer a massive amount of depth, but there's a campaign in a £20 solo game. I mean, that is just, you know, for me to kind of pull that campaign to pieces and say, oh, you know, it doesn't really offer a lot of depth. It's a £20 game, for Christ's sake. Now, I do think that there is a potential trick being missed here, because when you've laid the game out, it takes up, you know, a lengthy amount of table space. It's quite a long experience. And it's the perfect game to play solo. It would be a perfect travel game. For me, I think that, you know, the potential only thing I could say about Under Falling Skies is that I would like to see a smaller version of it. I know there's the P&P, but I would like to see a smaller version for, you know, maybe a slightly cut down version that I could play on a train, you know, the train table or on a plane, because it's ideal for kind of, you know, those travel journeys. The amount of gameplay it gives, the amount of replayability it gives are ideal for those travel journeys. So that is potentially my biggest bugbear with Under Falling Skies, is that this is a very much a successful product and a successful game and a well-designed game. Would have been able to see a version that's even smaller on this. But look, me finding fault with this game is like winning tens of millions of pounds on the lottery and then complaining that I've got to pay taxes on my winnings. It's just, for the amount of money that you pay for the game, and for what you get and the quality of the components that you get in there, and the amount of replayability and the variability in the difficulty settings, it's really hard to pick fault with this game. So, final thoughts on Under Falling Skies by Czech Games Edition, designed by Thomas Ullier. Thomas, first of all, just massive congratulations. I know this was out as a print and play kind of, you know, 12, 18 months ago, and it took the P&P world a little bit by storm there, and it's obviously inspired many people, because it's certain here that you've got lightning in a bottle. You've managed to capture something that is so simple yet so good to play, and I think that is the beauty about what you'll find about Under Falling Skies when you get to play it. It's simplicity. It's one of those things where you'll see it and you think, God, why did nobody think of this before? Why didn't I think of this before? And it's just, you know, it just plays so well. It's so easy to learn. It's so unauspicious in how it's laid out, in the artwork there. Everything works exactly as it should, and it plays all the better for not being kind of overflowered in many, many ways. Now, so Thomas, massive congratulations on capturing solo lightning in a bottle with Under Falling Skies, but also huge congratulations to the guys at Czech Games Edition, because what they did is they took Thomas's kind of print and play version and expanded it. They took it, obviously working with Thomas, and created something that is a marketable and retailable product. Not only that, but I think it absolutely sets a new benchmark in entry points to solo gamers. Now, as solo gamers and content creators, we get asked the question a lot, you know, oh, I want to get into solo gaming, or my husband or wife wants to get into solo gaming. What's a good gateway game to get into solo gaming? And many people talk about things like Friday or Deep Space D6. I think there's a new bar that's been set in the world of solo gaming, that this game, Under Falling Skies, should be in every solo gamer's collection. It is an absolutely fantastic solo game. I know you can go out there and get the P&P, and by all means, you know, continue to do that. But I would heartily recommend, for the price point of £20 or just over £20, going out there, getting yourself the physical copy of Under Falling Skies, because what you get in there is open to so much more kind of joy. You have the variation in the games, you have the campaigns that are in there, you've got the wonderful pieces and the dice. And I don't know how CG have done all this for £20, but absolutely fantastic work by them and Thomas to get them out there. It's a wonderfully accessible yet challenging solo game that deserves, as I say, a place in every solo board gamer's collection. I can't recommend Under Falling Skies enough. It's a real nice change for me to actually be able to review a really well-priced game with lots of content and fantastic components and loads of playability, and really have to kind of scratch around to find out if there's any issues with it. And for the price point, I really can't see. It is a game that deserves to be in everybody's collection, as I've said, every solo gamer's collection. So thank you very much for joining me on this journey. through Under Falling Skies by Thomas Ullier and published by CGE, Czech Games Edition. My name's Mark. This is Not Board Gaming. Remember, you can always follow us on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter. That's Not Board Gaming, always BORED. Don't forget to kind of like and subscribe to the channel. Check out our other videos. And one final thought: if you can't find anybody else to play with, there's nothing wrong with playing with yourselves. Until next time.